Deron Williams' career wasn't just a rise and fall, it was a complete mystery. This guy wasn't just good. At one point, people were seriously debating whether he was better than Chris Paul.
What Deron Williams does is he surveys the floor just like Chris Paul and takes the opportunity that the defense gives him.
He was a three-time All-Star, a two-time Olympic gold medalist, and for a while looked like a future Hall of Famer. His game was smooth, smart, and powerful. Everything you'd want from a modern point guard. But just a few years later, GMs around the league were calling him barely serviceable. His fall-off was so steep, he became known more for his contract than his game. One of the highest paid players in the league, suddenly not even playing like a starter. So, how does that even happen? Let's take it back, because this all started with a real promise that meant something. But hey, before we jump in, make sure to subscribe so you're along for the ride. Deron was built differently from the jump. Born in Parkersburg, West Virginia, the kid was an athlete in every sense. He won 2 state championships in wrestling before even fully locking in on basketball. Then came the Colony High School in Texas, where his game exploded. By 2005, he was a consensus second-team All-American and helped lead the team to a school record 37 wins and a trip to the national title game. He was 6 feet 3 inches, calm under pressure, and had a point guard IQ that just couldn't be taught. So when the Utah Jazz took him 3rd overall in the 2005 NBA draft, the highest pick in Illinois history, it felt like a perfect fit. Everything was lining up for a long, legendary career. Back when Deron Williams wore that Jazz uniform, it felt like the league had found its next great point guard. He wasn't just good, he was running teams off the floor. That pick and roll with Carlos Boozer, straight up deadly. This wasn't hype, this was real. People weren't just debating Deron versus Chris Paul for fun. Front offices were split. A lot of GMs thought Deron had the edge, but then, out of nowhere, it all started to shift. In February 2011, the Jazz did something nobody saw coming. They traded Deron to the New Jersey Nets. And no, this wasn't a blockbuster trade to get better players. It was a move made out of fear. According to CBS Sports, Utah wanted to avoid losing Deron for nothing in free agency, so they made the first move. When Deron Williams landed in Brooklyn, it felt like a fresh start, a new city, a new arena, and a franchise ready to build around him. But instead of a rebirth, it turned into a slow, painful downfall. The warning signs came before his first full season during Team USA's Olympic prep. USA basketball president Jerry Colangelo revealed that Williams showed up out of shape. Then came the ankle injuries, and they never really went away. That inflammation would stick with him for the rest of his career, constantly holding him back. Take the 2012-13 season. He played 78 games, but it never looked right. The ankle issues, the weight problems, they drained his explosiveness and messed with his confidence. The guy who once danced past defenders was now settling for tough jumpers. It got so bad that he needed not 1, not 2, but 3 sets of cortisone shots in both ankles. He even tried platelet-rich plasma therapy and went on a 3-day juice cleanse just to feel like himself again. Another major factor in Deron's downfall, coaching. The system mattered, and when it didn't suit him, his game disappeared. Under Avery Johnson in Brooklyn, his numbers took a nosedive. He was shooting under 40% from the field and under 30% from 3. Wild for someone who used to shoot 45% for his career. You could see the frustration building. He even spoke out publicly, and eventually, Johnson was fired. Then came PJ Carlesimo. And suddenly, Deron looked like Deron again. Just in the first 7 games under Carlesimo, his shooting jumped to 45% from the field and from deep. When asked what changed, Williams said, "I've been doing a lot more treatment and being smarter about my minutes in practice and things like that." That short stretch showed the old flashes, but it also made something very clear. He was now walking a tightrope. Any small setback could throw everything off. Still, if there was one last flicker of that superstar magic, it came during the 2015 playoffs against Atlanta. The critics had been loud, the injuries constant, and Deron's only real goal was just to finish games healthy. Then, out of nowhere, he dropped 35 points, grabbed 5 rebounds, and dished out 7 assists in a massive overtime win. The crossover, still deadly. The passing, still elite. Deron Williams didn't just decline, he unraveled. It began with serious ankle injuries around the Olympics, stripping him of his explosive first step and throwing off his entire rhythm. His signature crossover faded, and worse, his confidence began to crumble. "I tended to get down on myself," he admitted. Even on good nights, he played through pain. He was no longer dominating, just surviving. Weight gain slowed him down, his defense slipped, and he couldn't push the pace like before. One NBA executive summed it up. Williams can only flash the brilliance he once displayed in spurts. This wasn't about stats anymore. It was a superstar losing himself. The money tells the rest of the story. Back in 2012, the Nets gave him a 5-year deal worth $98 million. That's franchise player money. But things fell off so quickly that just a few years later, Brooklyn paid him $27 million just to walk away. That's how bad it got. Dallas took a chance. 2 years, $10 million. But it wasn't because they believed he was still that guy. It was a last-ditch move after the DeAndre Jordan mess. The contract was more about filling a gap than building around a star. And the league noticed. CBS Sports later ranked him as one of the NBA's biggest $100 million busts, right alongside names like Shawn Kemp, Gilbert Arenas, and Rashard Lewis. By 2015, the perception of Deron Williams had changed drastically. A league executive put it bluntly to CBS Sports, "I don't think he's a top 15 point guard right now." That's the same guy who once went toe-to-toe with Chris Paul for the crown of best point guard in the league. Forget all-star talk or leading a contender. Teams were just hoping he could bounce back enough to be respectable. But here's the thing. Deron's story shouldn't just be about the downfall, because at his peak, he was elite. He was cold-blooded in clutch moments, a true floor general, and he had real international success with Team USA. He showed up when the lights were brightest. So, no, the tragedy isn't that Deron wasn't good enough. It's that injuries, pressure, and instability took away the career he was supposed to have. He had Hall of Fame talent, but the game just didn't give him a fair shot to finish writing that story. Deron Williams' story is a stark reminder of how quickly greatness can fade in the NBA. His fall wasn't caused by one major injury or scandal. It was the slow, grinding effect of ankle issues, unstable coaching, and organizational chaos. At his peak, Williams was an all-star, an Olympic gold medalist, and one of the league's smoothest point guards. But the brilliance didn't last. The support system that once elevated him slowly crumbled, and with it, his dominance. His legacy is now defined just as much by what could have been as what was. For those who watched him in his prime, his crossover, vision, and clutch play still resonate. But his decline is a cautionary tale about how fragile a superstar's journey can be. Remember Deron at his best? Got your take on what happened? Drop a comment. And if you love NBA deep dives, hit like, subscribe, and the bell. Thanks for watching.